Can you see me?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
You're seeing me and you're hearing me okay?
Yes, I am. Let me just adjust this a bit.
Yeah, I'm a bit wonky.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Let's see if I can. I always get it wrong. I can never quite get the stupid thing right. Well, people are just starting to come in now, and I've got a good view of your lovely studio.
Okay.
Lots of bright colours, and hopefully that you can't see any. I've just draped, as you can see. Chinwe and me had a little catch up earlier, and I was a bit embarrassed because obviously you have a beautiful backdrop, and I had had some kittens running around and some probably my children's dirty pants and things like that.
Well, we're all at home, aren't we? So everything is permitted.
So I've draped a blanket over everything, tried to hide all the horrors. So hopefully
that's okay. I forgive you, Kate.
But as long as we can both see each other, we can hear each other, and for anybody who's just starting to join the call, can you let us know? Are you all seeing us okay? We're not upside down or back to front, or can you hear us? Can someone give us the thumbs up? Sandra, if you're on the call, let's see if she's on WhatsApp. Okay, we're getting some thumbs up. Thank you from Diana. Thank you from fantastic. So it looks like we are ready to go. So what normally happens is it takes a few minutes for the numbers just to start to go up. So if we just give it a minute or two before we get into the meat of it. But basically, I'm very happy to be here. My name's Kate, and I'm the director of The Big Draw, and I am very excited to be drawn to fellow passionate lover of colour, Chinwe. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, Kate. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Chinwe Russell, and I am a Doncaster-based artist. And Doncaster is in South Yorkshire, England, in case you're joining us from far away. I'm also a curator, so I work with several other artists, and it's exciting to be here with Kate tonight.
So I've made lots of different notes about things. So I'm guessing there'll be people on the call, and obviously what we'll be doing as we go along, there will be opportunities for people to ask questions. So they can put that into the chat, and we'll try and thread those through as best we can. We can always, if you do have some questions for Chinwe that I don't have a chance to pull out as we go through, we can always revisit those at the end. Or, maybe we just do another one another time if we run out of time. So we've got just about under an hour, haven't we? So in terms of maybe getting into all the different themes, because I know there's lots that both of us covered, Chinwe, where should we start? Should we start with, and you're currently living in Doncaster, and that's your studio, obviously, that you're in at the moment.
Yeah, this is my studio. I work from the basement of my house. It's quite, this is just a part of it. So what you see here is basically my work space. Obviously, when I paint here, it's a lot messier, when I'm working. But because I'm not working this evening, I tidied it up for everybody. I've hid a few things, but it's still quite messy. So yeah, I work from my studio in Doncaster. Yeah. I have worked from an external studio away from my house. I used to be a resident at the Doncaster Exchange for about 8 months. Yeah. Because we had a project going there, so I needed to be there for the project to take off. But this is my permanent studio here at home.
And I think one of the reasons, and I wasn't joking, as Chinwe knows, I wasn't joking, I think one of the reasons that we started to chat with each other through Instagram was, I was personally, I'm very drawn to the colour in your work, and just colour generally. Colour in clothes, colour in eyeshadow, colour around us, and how that affects our mood and everything else. I find it incredibly compelling. So I was very much drawn to your work, especially from that at the beginning. And obviously you start to get into And then I started to find out more about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go through. But some of the things I've got on here are strong women, historical women, empowering women. So it'd be good for us to bring some of those themes out as well. But I was also very interested with all the connections that you have. So there's that sort of the local, regional, but global as well, because obviously your work also has an international perspective, and you've been in some international, shortlisted for some international shows, exhibitions recently. But I think the work being grounded in Doncaster is very interesting. It's something we've talked a little bit about before.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a little bit about Doncaster, not from a long time ago. I did grow up in Yorkshire about a lifetime ago. And I do remember, I mean, I grew up in North Yorkshire. We used to visit a lot of friends in South Yorkshire at the time. And it used to be, people used to say really horrible things. They used to say, you know, oh, there's no art there, there's no culture. And of course, it's absolute rot. But it feels like there's been a shift. Like there's a shift there in terms of the cultural ecology that's really been becoming a lot stronger. And I think that that's down to artists like you who do a lot of advocacy in the area. And there's the museum, but there's also Doncaster Creates, I forget which way around. But there are some amazing individuals, organisations, sort of pioneering people like yourself who are really putting Doncaster on the map. Not that it wasn't before, but I don't think it was getting the profile it deserved. So should we start from there, and then we can start to dip into everything?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Doncaster really is the place to be. It's like a gold mine, basically, Doncaster. And when I hear people say bad things about Doncaster, I'm really very surprised. Sort of pity them in a way because they don't know any better. But there's so much going on in Doncaster culturally. We have a lot of cultural organizations. We have obviously the museum, the Doncaster Museum and Art Gallery. The name's changed now to Danum Museum and Art Gallery. And they are building a brand new space where they are going to showcase world-class art. So all that is going on, and then you have fabulous organizations like CAT. Any show you can see, a lot of shows you can see in London, you can see the equivalent in CAT. So for people like us who are living here, we don't need to travel to London because everything we need culturally is here in Doncaster. You have right up our street, which does a lot of cultural activities. They do the DN Live Festival. They really go into the hard-to-reach areas, you know, to get people engaged in arts. And you have my own organizations, which is the Doncaster Art Fair. We do a lot of art fairs, not just for local artists, but for international artists. Yeah. And then we have Doncaster Creates, who have started working in the last couple of years. You have the new Fringe Art Organization who does exhibitions. You have Doncaster Art Club who does annual exhibitions. We have so much, you know. We have loads, and then the newest one we have is a D31 Art Gallery, which is a beautiful, you know, space right in the heart of the town centre, which is going to showcase work of artists from all over. So I don't understand the people who say, you know, there is no culture in Doncaster, because there is loads of culture in Doncaster.
Well, obviously, it's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. It's just that I just remember it, and I remember a lot of people have said stuff, but it used to be, I think I said to you when we spoke before, they used to say things like, you're not going to go to Donny and Scunny, are you? You know, and so that I'm not to, you know, insult Doncaster or Scunthorpe, but they were very horrible about it. And I don't really know where it comes from, but actually you start to go into it all, and there is so much going on. And there always has been. And so I think it's maybe it just hasn't had, it probably hasn't had the right champions. It has people like you waving the flag and saying, you know, there's all this activity going on. Because you mentioned it already. So you've mentioned the D31 gallery and obviously the art fair as well. And you have founded both of those, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much single-handedly as well. From scratch.
Yeah. Yes. It was because when I arrived in Doncaster, I think 3 years ago now, I was looking for places to show my work.
Yeah.
And I sort of got together. I was really supported by Doncaster Council, who showed me various places where I could you know, potentially show my own work. But instead of showing my work alone, I decided to convince other artists to come together with me and show their work at the same time, because there was nothing like that when I arrived. And that's how the Doncaster Art Fair started. We started from doing about 4 shows a year, which were really successful. And I mean, since it started, I've exhibited more than 120 artists, and these are not just local artists, they're also regional and national artists. But when the lockdown happened, then the Doncaster Art Fair went international because everything was now done online, and we did some really successful exhibitions. We did the art as a response to mental health international exhibition. As you know, we spoke about it earlier. Mental health is a big thing, especially since the lockdown. So we did an exhibition that had 600 artists from all over, from 42 countries. And who says art doesn't happen in Doncaster? So,
incredible, yes. And that opportunity that has come about through the, well, I suppose the horrors of the pandemic and the digital opportunities, there are some positive opportunities around that in terms of opportunities for artists who might not have had the opportunity for the access previously. And I remember when we spoke before, and we were talking about exhibitions and perhaps more exhibitions in perhaps more traditional spaces and all of those sorts of things. And I was really interested when you were talking about the locations and how you recruit, how you get interest from artists. And this doesn't necessarily have to be artists who are in the know or on the right networks, you know, so taking it out into interesting local spaces that are embedded in the local community where you know there might be why wouldn't there still be talented, incredible artists that whole thing, oh well, they're obviously going to come from certain, it's such, you know. So I love that way that you've created this model. But obviously before lockdown you were able to go in and take it into spaces that I think really has broadened it in a really unique way.
Yeah, what I've done actually is
help democratize it. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because art can be quite elitist. Sometimes, you know, you go to fancy galleries, see art, and you have to be a certain class of people to see art. But what we've done here is actually take art into the heart of the community, into the market spaces, into the pubs. So I have held exhibitions in pubs and cafes, in the butchers, in the food hall, in the market, so that as you get your piece of lamb steak, you know, there's art and there's an exhibition going on behind you. What this has done is that, you know, even people who would not traditionally think about art is there in the space where they are. And that's what has really made it quite successful, because it's been accessible to everyone, really.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I had this discussion with a colleague actually the other day, just a few days ago, and it was sort of trying to unpick this, personally I think, false notion that in some ways I think there are some people who think that if an artist's work is more, if they call themselves a community artist, or if their work is a socially engaged practice, it's not, they're not tagging themselves as a fine artist, that in some ways their work is lesser artistic than the others, and I just don't buy into it. I do not see why it cannot be both. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why does it, I don't know where, well, I mean, it comes from what you've already sort of touched on in terms of elitism of art, I think, and this sense that it has to be almost a faux purity about what we mean by fine art. But why on earth can't somebody be the most incredible artist, community artist, who is engaging people in their area and perhaps doing art with a social purpose, and simultaneously creating something that is groundbreaking, you know, really sort of a very high, I don't want to use the word quality because I even feel uncomfortable, but it's groundbreaking in its own way. It's up there with the best of the others. Why? You know, why?
Yeah, I don't see why we, we have to classify, art in that way, because art is all encompassing. It's for everyone. It's for every level of society. And you have different artists who practice different art forms. One is not necessarily better than the other one. So something that appeals to you might not appeal to the other person, but and also vice versa. It doesn't mean that, personally, for me, there is no good or bad art. It's just a question of choice. If you have someone who's doing something, I mean, you have artists who do like 3Ps in a big the big white canvas, and it sells for 11 million. It's classified as great art. Meanwhile they've done nothing. Do you see? And then you have people who spend 2 weeks, crafting these incredible pieces, and you don't value that. So it's something. The art sector is something really very, very unique, because there are really no rules. You can't predict anything. One artist might be a big artist, for no reason at all. Yeah. And people who you might consider should be big artists, they don't make it. So it's a really big dilemma in the sector.
I think so much of it is driven by collectors and people wanting to, who are seeing it as an investment. It's not being driven by the artists. It's being driven the wrong way round. But
yeah,
I would just picking up something you were saying earlier. You were talking about, you're going into these interesting spaces, more sort of community spaces embedded within the community. As you say, you might have an exhibition, you might have the butcher or the baker or whatever's going on in front of it. Have you found that has brought into the art fair a much broader range of artists and people that wouldn't have necessarily found a way into taking part or submitting their work to potentially another art fair?
That is exactly what it has done, because when I set out on this adventure, unplanned adventure, because none of it was planned, that was exactly what I was looking to do: bring art to people who would never think about art. Because the mistake we often make is always pursuing people who are interested in art. So you have so many people pursuing a finite set of people, and then we neglect this vast amount of people who are not interested in art, who have potential opportunities to showcase art. So that is what I have targeted for the past 3 years: people who are not necessarily interested in art, to make them interested in art. And the way to make them interested in art is to bring art to their own spaces, because we know that they will not wake up one day and decide to go, and see an art exhibition in a gallery. But if you take it to the space where they are, they will see it. And bit by bit, you're sowing the seeds. And these are the people who will then go maybe 6 months time to go and see an exhibition in the gallery. So it's all about creating an industry from scratch. And if you want to create an industry from scratch, you really have to go to the grassroots, to the people who matter, and build it up from there. If you start from the people at the top who are already, who believe they know everything about art, it's a little bit difficult to penetrate. But if you go to the people and then build it up, that is where you get a momentum, and that's what has had. That's what we've seen in Doncaster today.
I think it's incredibly pioneering what you're doing. I think the sector needs a lot more of this. One of the things that you touched on earlier, Chinwe, was just thinking around, bringing in artists who are not necessarily come through the sort of traditional formal channels. And I'm thinking there might be people who are already on the live call now, or obviously will be saving this as a resource to both Instagram, TV, and also it'll go on YouTube. That there may be, people, I'm sure there will be, who want to know a bit more about you and your way through. Now, I made a few notes. I've got MBA, BA, and BSc.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of degrees.
I think that's what we have about, I don't know.
Where are we? Economics as well. I was thinking, gosh, okay, I didn't pick that bit up on one of the chat before. So I've got, in business management, European School of Economics in Paris. And I was thinking it would be really interesting to hear about your personal route through and how traditional you think it has been or hasn't been. Because we're hearing quite a lot of the big draw around, well, increasingly around artists who are either on their way up, they're sort of emerging and doing brilliantly well, or they are already very successful, but they are self-taught. And we hear a phrase over and over quite a lot, which is this feeling of imposter syndrome, or that in some way, because they are self-taught and they haven't gone through the Slade or UAL or Gold, that in some way that's lesser. Now, I think that there's an argument to say that their work hasn't gone through the cohort and all the rest of it. It's going to be less influenced by that group, that cohort mentality of what is and isn't in season, or what you should be. There's sort of a freshness to it.
Yeah.
But I wondered what you thought about that, and also that idea about how you got into all of this, because
I am self-taught, like a few artists these days. And personally, I feel that art is something that you're born with. It's either you have talent, it's really not about talent, it's about passion and interest. If you have passion and interest, you can do anything, even if nobody teaches you, because you will go and teach yourself. And that's what happened in my own case. I didn't go to art school. I went to business school. So from a business background, I worked in banking for, 6 years. I worked in banking in Nigeria, which is where my family comes from. And I worked in banking in the UK. I started a cosmetic company, which I ran for, 15 years. So art was not, it was not something that I didn't go to art school. But when I was working in consulting, recruitment consulting, I wasn't very happy at work. And when I came home in the evening, I just picked up a brush and canvas. And I started painting away my frustrations, So I used to try and, I take photos of flowers. It was tiger lilies. And then I will try and copy, replicate them on canvas. That's how I started. And what I find with, going to art school, it's fine. But personally, I don't really think, because I don't, it's okay, but it's not the only route into art. If you don't go to art school and you are interested in art and you're passionate, you should go for it, because you will find that your work is different. It is true that a lot of people who go to art school, they tend to think that art has to conform in a certain, it has to be a certain way. And sometimes you find that they tend to produce art which is sort of similar, because that's what they've learned in school.
Oh, yeah.
Now you find some, and then, they're sort of sometimes bound by what should be and what shouldn't be. And then you find people like myself who are self-taught, who don't give it, I don't want to use the word, but you see what I mean? So I don't care about all of that. I paint what I want to paint. And you find this with a lot of artists who are self-taught, because their work is authentic, sometimes naive, very passionate and honest. You find that a lot of times. So that's what I would say to people. Art school is okay, but you don't need to go to art school to be an artist, and you certainly don't need to go to art school to be a successful artist. Because I didn't go to art school, and I've done a few things, in my art career, which started in 2007. So there isn't. If you remember, a lot of when you want to occupy your child, the first thing you give to them is pen and some coloring pen. They start drawing whatever they like, because it's something that is born in us. We are all artists. So it depends on the degree of your passion for arts that will enable you to take it that one step further to become a professional. That is my view. I know that a lot of people who go to art school don't like self-taught artists because, like you say, they think we are encroaching on their environment, but there is space for everyone.
There is.
You see?
There's different. Yeah. I think a question I had, following on from what you were saying, was, so do you think, however, that because you have you have this incredibly strong, business background,
Yeah.
so you have that, and do you think these days, because I mean, one thing that we do also hear from artists, and I mean, a long time ago, about 20 years ago, I used to work in an organisation. I used to have to do these one-to-ones, which were fun, but they were always the same. They were always about artists wanting to make money, so about raising funding, and a lot of them needing to market themselves. So
Yeah.
to be a bit savvy and do a bit more self-promotion, marketing, do a bit of paperwork, sometimes a bit of admin to get the grants and all that. And I would say about 90% of them absolutely hated it. And didn't feel that didn't feel they didn't want to do it, but felt that they shouldn't have to do it as well. And I totally understand that, but I think probably the reality of the world that we live in is that artists, I don't know whether rights or wrongs, that they do need to have that broad range of skills as well. It's great. Wonderful artwork, but if no one sees it, knows about it. And I mean, clearly, your background, do you think that has helped you? Because you have done some incredible things. I mean, not just in Doncaster, but you've achieved a lot. And you can see that there's a drive there, and there's a know-how and a business knowledge, and being able to get money and negotiate and get with the council and all the different partnerships. And not necessarily doesn't come to everybody. So, what you thought about that?
Well, you are absolutely right, Kate. It's not enough to be a good artist because there are so many good artists out there. There are incredible artists. You have to have a wide range of skills. My business skills, play a very strong part in my career. In fact, it plays the most important part in my career. So which means management, negotiating, how to build networks, how to collaborate with different partners, and most importantly, how to promote yourself. A lot of artists don't like to self-promote, but you are your own biggest fan. If you don't promote yourself, who is going to promote you? It's only when you start promoting yourself that then people will take notice of you, and then they will start promoting you. No matter how fantastic your work is, if it's hidden in your basement, you're never going to be successful. It has to be out there.
Get it out there.
It has to be out there. It is true that a lot of artists, they don't want to be out there, but what I say to them, it's actually the most important part of your career. And is one of the biggest things that I like to do here for artists, to encourage them to promote themselves. Tell people about your working on, what you're working on, tell people your story. So I've done quite a few projects around that. And in fact, I'm starting an artist mentoring program soon, probably sometime in the new year, just about helping artists to go from I am an artist into actually a successful career, using some of the skills that I apply in my own career. Because I speak to a lot of artists all the time. This year alone, I think I've worked with about 900 artists, either by email or telephone. I'm constantly speaking to artists and looking at artwork, and I've seen that there is a huge need for artists to actually take their career into their hands and manage themselves. Basically, if you go to art school, I think it's important to go to a finishing school, sort of a business school, do a business course. It could be a certificate in business management, so that you can get the key skills that you need to run your art career. Because at the end of the day, art is a career, it's a business, just like any other one. and it has to be treated like that if you're a serious artist. That is what I think.
Yeah. Sandra's just said exactly what I was about to say about your artist mentoring. And I mean, it's probably the sort of thing for me to talk to you separately about off the call, but that's really interesting. I would love to know more about that and the big draw, see if there's a way that we can collaborate around that, because I think you are absolutely right. And CPD opportunities for artists that are artist led, I think that it's definitely something, isn't it, that's needed. So absolutely very interesting. So just picking out some of the little things I have on my notes. So thinking about going back to specifically your work now, I can see some of it in the back, and I recognise some of it. And as I've said to you before, the things that I really love, I love colours, but the boldness of the line, and also the sort of, what's the word? I think it's almost like the naturalness of the line. It's not overworked. It's not there's like a real authenticity to it, I think. And when we were chatting before, because I was wondering about some of the imagery and the motifs and things that you use, because I can see some of them coming out in different pieces and some of the different exhibitions. We started to chat about that, and that's when I was very interested, because I was hearing that women do play a strong role in your work. So,
I think I paint women quite a lot. I am a big fan of women, because for me, women are the most powerful beings. Women are wonderful. I mean, when you see a woman, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's doing school. We are like powerhouses, So when I drop my daughter off at school, you see all the moms hurrying, and they drop the child off at school. They would have gotten them ready. They run off to work and go and look after the family, So I admire women a lot. I think women are really strong. So that has influenced my work quite a lot. In fact, one of my biggest collections is 20 women who changed the world. I think we spoke about it briefly.
Yeah, that's right. 20 historical women who changed the world, and I think the tribes of Africa, indigenous tribes, is really interesting as well.
Yeah.
But the historical women, it's from different periods, isn't it? It's from
the women are from, I think, from the 15th, from the 16th century all the way to the present day. I haven't really shown that collection. They are big bodies of work. I chose. It's sort of like a homage to women, and the amazing things they have done, and how we actually, changed the world. Or I've chosen women, some well-known women like Marie Curie, for her contribution to science. Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp, Queen Elizabeth, obviously Queen of the world, and have gone all the way from those very well-known figures to lesser-known women who have done incredible things. For example, Stephanie Kolek, who invented the Kevlar material. And Kevlar is used in over 200 products that we take for granted. For example, bulletproof vest, for our soldiers and the army, in the helmet. But how many people know Stephanie Kolek? We just take all of those things for granted. There's Josephine Coltrane, who doesn't have a dishwasher in their house. But how many people know that a woman called Josephine Coltrane invented the dishwasher? Personally, I don't like, washing dishes by hand. But thanks to this woman, I don't have to, So you can imagine how many women around the world who should be grateful to this woman, but they don't know who she is. Do you see? So there's a woman called Nwanyerowa, who led the women's riot of 1929 in Nigeria, who was fighting for women to be treated as equally as men. Because what happened was that when the British were in Nigeria, the rights of women were taken away. Though before that time, women had rights, just like men, they can hold positions in society and all of that. But during the colonial period, the rights of women were taken away until this woman revolted and said, hang on, you're asking us to pay taxes, However, you don't want us to have the same positions as men. And she led this riot. And also today.
Such a good, this is incredible.
Yeah. So I paint all of these women, and even my other, actually the woman I just mentioned to you, and this is sort of a homage to her. I'm not sure you can see properly. Oh, there.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah. So, well, it's not very, it's not easy to show big painting, but yeah, I'm always, and my mom has influenced me quite a lot. So I've done a lot of paintings inspired by my mom. For example, this one behind, which is actually going to be exhibited in Shanghai this November at the Shanghai
Contemporary Art one. I was going to ask you about. Yeah.
Yeah, Shanghai International Art Fair. I think it starts on the November 22nd. I've got 4 pieces that are going to be exhibited there. And it's also in the running for the Global Art Award. So again, it's something inspired by a woman, my mom. And another piece which was inspired by a woman was another piece by my mom, which was exhibited at the Royal Academy in London. That was 2019. Yeah. 2019. It was a very successful piece of artwork, and it sold before the exhibition.
It was longer ago, but it was last year.
It was just last year, but it feels like so long. So much has happened since then, you see. Yeah. So yeah, women, I'm a big fan of painting women because there's so much to paint, not just, who they are, but also the form, the shape and everything. I've never been very successful at painting men, but women, yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things I could come back on that, but I'll probably get myself into a pickle. One thing I did want to ask, that I think I'm allowed to ask, is so going back to the incredible story of the lady, the Nigerian woman, rising up against taxes and the changes, because I think when we were chatting about that, I think it is really interesting historically that actually the women that you've been exploring within all of these indigenous tribes, the women were often the ones that were given they were the ones that were sort of running everything. And then at the same time, certainly in United Kingdom or Britain at the time, this is sort of pre-Victorian, that women were, well, they couldn't even vote. I mean, so far behind. And then it was obviously all the stuff that happened subsequently that then influenced that and shifted it so that women were then, those rights were then taken away. But it didn't start off like that.
Exactly.
Interesting. But I think the question I want to ask is, and I am being a bit provocative here, Chinwe, but why do you think, so I've got a 9 and a 10-year-old girls. I want to know why my children are not being taught these things at school.
I know.
I want to know why. And I think they would love to hear about some of these stories about strong women that you've been talking about, and some of these incredible stories that are not just limited to 1 or 2 of the characters that are on the current curriculum.
Actually, for this historical women who change the world collection, my ambition is to actually show the exhibition in schools. You see, so go from one school to the other, maybe show the exhibition for a week as part of a way to inspire the young girls there, so that they don't think they can only aspire to be, I don't know, hairdressers or something. There are some amazing women who have gone before them, who have done incredible things. Yeah. So I am hoping to show this exhibition in school, because I think it's really important, the education that we teach our children. I think it's important. But we live in a society where we're quite selective about what we teach children, instead of giving them a really broad range of skills that will inspire them to give the best of themselves. So that's probably maybe why I paint historical themes, because I find a piece of history which I think is important, and I narrate it on canvas. It's sort of a way of trying to pass something on, if you see what I mean. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I just find that, I mean, my girls come home and they say, oh, I'm learning about so-and-so. And, okay, there's a little bit of variety in there. Not much. I mean, I think you mentioned Florence Nightingale. So obviously, so they'll learn about Florence Nightingale, and they'll learn about Mary Seacole. And then I'll sort of ask a bit more about it. There's not a lot else. It's not.
Yeah.
It feels very limiting, and it feels sort of a bit dull. I know. It's like wanting to hear some of those exciting stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get you going, because I don't know. It just, I don't want to get onto the whole state of curriculum and arts education at the moment, but I think you know where I'm going with this one. Yes. So let's have a look. What else do I have on my notes? Let me just check in on the time to make sure I'm not overrunning, and see if Sandra has sent me to tell me off if I've done anything wrong or haven't asked any questions. So I'm okay for the time being.
You're fine.
Fine. I think we've got about another 15 minutes or so.
Oh, right. That was quick.
Yeah, no, I know. It always goes so quickly. I know. This is why I always think I could just carry on talking. So, I mean, the other things that I've got on my list, and we've sort of both touched on it a little bit as we've gone through, I think it's interesting that when you were starting to talk about how you got started, that you didn't go to art school, etc. You were, you're working in business and finance, and it was all a bit stressful, and you decided to, pick up the whole and have a go, but really as a way to feel better.
Yeah.
Almost as a sort of therapy. And it's
exactly. Yeah. So instead of shouting at people in the office and getting angry, I will hold it all back, and then I'll come home. I will paint the anger away. Yeah. That's what I used to do. And I used to find myself painting. Say I'll come home at 6 o'clock. I will ignore everything, and I'll find myself painting till 2 in the morning, just to get rid of all that.
Purge yourself of all the
yes, all the nonsense that goes on in the office. That's I used to. Yeah. But it wasn't a career. It wasn't something that I set out to make a career out of. It's just started like that. In 2007, I painted a few things, and people were interested. Can I buy this? Can you do this for me? And I sold a few things. Then put it on the back burner, and life carried on. But then I entered some arts competition. Yeah. And they said, yeah, we like your work. Could you come for the second stage interview? I said, well, I'm not going to bother with these people. I have important things to do. But my husband and his friends said, go on. They've already said, come along. You go ahead. So I took my paintings and I went. I think it was in York. And when I saw the people who were doing the interview, I wasn't impressed. So I said to myself, I haven't got time for, all this, but I was there. So I said, let me stick to it. There was one of them who looked, she had a very stern face. I said, okay, she looks stern, so that's all right. Let's stick with it. And they selected my work. I think there were 12 of us who were selected out of 60. I said, okay, maybe there's something in this art business. So that's how it started. And then I applied for an exhibition. I think it was the other art fair. And then I was selected for that. And they had a special part of the exhibition, which was about women, women artists. And I think I was selected as one of the 30 female artists out of 500. So they sort of used us to showcase that women are not given enough opportunities in the arts. Women are not represented in the gallery. So they did quite a big exhibition with 30 of us. It was really exciting. And then I think that same year, I made the final list at the Global Arts Award. Yeah. And, a lot of things happened all in one go. And that was when I started taking it seriously. So I said, okay, perhaps there's something people are seeing that I'm not seeing.
It's like, okay, it's happening. I'm going to call myself an artist now.
Yeah, so that's how it all started. Just because it's about what we said before, being out there. If I hadn't gone out there, nobody would have stayed in my basement, but because I was out there and people saw that and then they liked it, they bought it, and then I created more. And do you see what I mean? So,
sadly, that's regardless of the quality of the artwork, isn't it? It's
yeah, regardless of whether I went to art school or not, I was out there showing what I've done, and it requires a lot of confidence because people critique your work. One person actually told me at an exhibition, looked at one of my paintings, not any of it. I said, "Do you think that somebody will actually put that on their wall?" I said, "Why not?" You know, it was really, so you have to be able to take that as an artist.
Yeah.
You have to be thick-skinned because people are judging you all the time, and a lot of artists are very sensitive. They can't take that, but you have to be able to take that. We are in the visual business, you see, it's all about visual, so it can be a bit, tough at times. Yeah.
No, we must talk more about this offline, about this whole mentoring. I think it's really interesting. All the things that you're pointing out. One of my colleagues has put on the chat, and I was going to mention it as well, is so what she said. So this is from Devon, who's in the part of the Big Draw team. So I'm sure you're already plugged into it, Chinwe. So she said the Black Curriculum is a terrific organisation as campaigning for a curriculum celebrating Black excellent and inclusive histories. We've got to support them and spread the word. So I spoke because of what we were talking about with, I suppose, with my kids, and I just want them to have a much, I don't know, they learn about the Holocaust. I mean, about the Holocaust until, Alice, my oldest girl, she's 10. I mean, she's really enjoying history, but she's saying, I think we've done quite a lot of the Holocaust and World War II now.
That is true.
We do it, Mummy. I know it's really important, but I think we've probably learned enough about it now. I think we could do something else. But I mean, the point being, why can't we learn about all the other stuff?
There's so much children can be learning. There's a lot, and art is a really, really important way to teach children. Because of their attention span. That is why, for the collections I do, I really want, to engage with schools because it's an important tool for children to learn about important things. For example, with this whole coronavirus thing, I did a big painting about coronavirus, especially in the early stages, or all the different countries where we had the highest number of cases. Because something told me, actually, you need to document this thing now visually, because I don't know, 50 years down the line, when I'm long dead and people are learning about the coronavirus, this painting might be an important tool.
No, it won't be. We won't be. We're all living a lot longer now, aren't we? We'll be going. We'll be going longer. About the same age.
So that's what I did, just to document. It was sort of document. I think I actually have it here.
But if you can show, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. You might not see it properly, but can you see anything?
I can see about 2/3 of it. Oh no, I can see it. Yeah. That's a big piece of artwork.
It's a big painting. So again, that's a way of documenting what has happened this year for posterity. So I like to do stuff like that.
And I mean, it's that whole being a narrator, and I think that role of the storyteller it really comes through in all of your work, doesn't it?
Yes.
Storyteller, and not just a story, but being a storyteller with some flourish. It's telling the truth, but it's making it exciting as well. So people they want to look at it and they want to learn about the history of it.
Exactly. I mean, when I paint a piece of history, I paint it.
I think that's it. It's got a joyful aspect, even if it's dealing with difficult themes. There's a joyfulness to it.
Exactly. So I mean, there's some really history is full of bloodshed and pain and a lot of uncomfortable things. So when I paint history, especially uncomfortable ones, I paint them in bold, bright color. What it does is it makes it easier to discuss, because what you see is the color first and then the history behind it. Things like the slave trade, I painted the slave trade for a lot of us Africans, it's quite a really difficult subject, but I painted it in a way that any African, will be able to discuss it without, that feeling of that we have. And I do that with a lot of my narrative work, put a lot of colors. I've done the Spanish Inquisition, and we all know what happened during the Spanish Inquisition, but I painted it in such bold color that it takes you a while to realize it's the Spanish Inquisition. So it draws you in, you discuss the painting until you actually see what's going on in the painting. So that's how I like to narrate history.
Yeah. I think it's almost putting you in a safe enough place for you to actually be able to take the artwork in, down the narrative rather than just shutting down to it.
Yeah.
I think it could happen with a difficult narrative. Another question popping up is, with all the colour you use, what is your favourite colour? If you have one, I possibly couldn't choose one. But do you have one favourite colour?
I like to use red, so I use red. I use red quite a lot, especially when I do paintings on my mom. I use red because red is passion. Red is the color of blood, it's the color of life, and
vibrancy, and
it's very vibrant. It draws you in. So I like to use red background, and then I piece the characters inside. I the way I paint is that I always find the color which is the key. I call it the key color. Sometimes when I finish a painting, it might not look as bright as I would like it to look until I put in the key color, and that key color is the color that opens the whole painting. Sometimes the key is yellow and sometimes it's black. So for every painting, the key to the painting is a different color, depends on the combination. But I find that most times it's either black or yellow. Once I add, then the painting comes to life. So that's quite important in my work.
And in terms of color, I mean, with your clothing, and do you find that you wear certain colors to change your mood, or how?
No, it's not. It's whatever I see in my wardrobe.
Very colorful.
It's whatever I see in my wardrobe. I suppose being because of my origin and the culture, we are very colorful people. That comes across in my painting and in the choice of clothing. For the past, I don't know, since lockdown, I have been wearing a lot of African clothes and tying the headscarf, which I never used to do before. But during lockdown, I developed a passion for sewing on my sewing machine. I started making up all these African flowing gowns, and they are full of color, aren't they? And so I'm not.
It's all about our upper half, isn't it? No,
sorry?
I can't see anything. It's like we're all on Zoom, so it doesn't matter what's happening.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's all about the makeup, the hair piece.
Yeah.
All of this, that's where we're all doing stuff, isn't it? To try and brighten ourselves up. I certainly know that if I'm going into a meeting and I know, and this is no offense meant to any gentleman who may be on the call or watch something after, but I know that I'm going to a meeting with sort of older gentlemen who are perhaps of a certain demographic. I will wear red. I will deliberately wear red or purple because it makes me feel stronger. And it makes me feel like, don't with, and I do find that I personally use colour in that way around me to change how I do things. It's incredibly powerful, isn't it?
I mean, colour is a powerful thing because it can change your whole, personality when you wear certain colours. For example, if you wear red and look at yourself in the mirror, it changes everything. If you wear black, you'll feel different. So I think color is quite important.
I mean, in terms of materials that you use, I think is your go-to. I think it's acrylic. Is it acrylic that you're doing on canvas?
Yes, I do acrylic.
Yeah. And do you have any particular? I mean, people often like to know particular brands that you like to use, or.
Yes, actually, I like to buy Reeves. There's a brand called Reeves because their pigmentation is really, really rich.
Yes.
You only need one coat.
Yeah.
I used to buy them in tubs of, is it 500 ml? I think, or 250. And I used to buy them from the range, and they came in a pack of 6 colors. And they stopped doing them. So now you get them in tiny little, tubes. This is really very annoying. And I mean, acrylic paints can be quite tricky because sometimes you can buy the ones which you think are great and you use them and the pigmentation doesn't come through and then you have to apply several coats. But I find that Reeves is really very good. And I use a lot of titanium white because sometimes when you use regular white and put it through a white bit, the white doesn't it's not white enough.
No, I know.
Yeah, but titanium white are really quite good if you want, white bits to use. So I have tons of that.
Yeah, I do that. I bulk buying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
And most times I use primary colors because I'm not very good with color mixing. So I use primary colors. And when I'm painting, I always ask myself, what color haven't I used on this canvas? Let's talk to you. That's how I paint. There is no thought process about, this will go with that. I just go for it. It's quite intuitive. I look back and say, what color haven't I used? Okay, let's find blue. Whack it in there. See like that.
I'm mindful of the time because we've only got a couple of minutes left. Just to finish off, would you have, I mean, I asked this question to everyone that I chat with, would you have, I mean, you've already talked about the mentoring and you've talked quite a bit about that, but would you have any sort of nuggets of advice, or if it was you talking to your younger self or somebody, I don't know, if somebody lives in the area, what would you want to say to them to help them to either take them to the next step, feel more confident, get in touch with you, or maybe some of the networks, the gallery, all the things that you're developing? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to chat with any artist who's looking for support on how to get onto the next step. That's what I do a lot. Yeah. I work with hundreds of artists, and I'm very open to discussing with artists. Your art is not going to sell itself, that no matter how good you are. That is my first advice. Your art will not sell itself. You have to have a solid PR strategy behind you. You have to be out there. You shouldn't worry about what people will say about your work. It doesn't matter. You need to be bold. I know confidence doesn't come easily to a lot of artists, but at the end of the day, you have to brace yourself for different comments. You are in the visual business, so you have to grow a tough skin.
Yes.
If you, and you have to think of yourself, of your career. Think of yourself as a business person. I am in the business of creating art, selling my work. That you have to think like a business, any other business. I don't know. Otherwise, it will be very difficult because the competition is fierce. There's a lot of people doing digital art. They can knock off like a huge, fantastic piece of art in two minutes. So
there's also a lot of people doing not so great stuff, but they're very good at walking the walk and the talk, can't they? And they get themselves out.
I mean, there's a lot to say in that area because we talk about specialization, who to market your art to, how to market. Then we talk about framing, themes. So there's a whole range of things that you need to know, not just about, creating art. I always advise people to create working collections so that it makes sense. That way you can market a collection to specific segment of the society. You can market a collection to a chain of stores, for example, that could inspire their next season's collection of clothing.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I think we're about to get cut off any second. We've got like 1 minute left. So we need to follow up on this, don't we?
Yeah.
I think this is really something very interesting in this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut, but I have absolutely loved chatting with you. I could just chat, but I'm going to get kicked out any minute. So thank you so much. I've had a lovely time chatting.
You're welcome.
Let's talk again, maybe in the next few days. I'll drop you an email
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there's lots of lovely comments. And let's do it soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, lovely. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.